Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, beloved listeners, there are moments in life, quiet, almost invisible moments, when time itself seems to pause, and in that stillness, your future is silently being decided, not by luck, not by chance, but by the small financial choices you make when no one is watching. Somewhere between fear and faith, between hesitation and courage, a single decision can separate a life of endless struggle from a life of quiet, lasting wealth. And today, we stand at one of those moments where the story of a company and the story of your financial destiny may be more connected than you think. Welcome, with humility and respect, to a conversation not just about a stock, but about belief, patience, risk, and the deeper meaning of investing itself. Because when people hear about Tesla, they don't just hear about cars. They hear about dreams. They hear about innovation, disruption, and a future that feels like it's arriving faster than we can understand. But beneath all the noise, beneath the headlines and excitement, lies a question every thoughtful investor must ask, quietly, honestly. Is this an opportunity, or is it a test? You see, many years ago, before the charts, before the numbers, before the confidence, there was only confusion. I remember sitting with very little money, watching others talk about opportunities as if they were reserved for a different world. A world where people had capital, connections, and certainty. And I, like many of you, had none of those things. There is a kind of silence that comes with financial struggle, a heavy silence, when your wallet feels light, but your responsibilities feel unbearably heavy when you want to invest, but even saving feels like a battle. And in those moments, the market doesn't look like opportunity. It looks like risk. It looks like danger, like something that could take away even the little you have. So you wait, you tell yourself, one day, when I have more money, when I understand better, when the timing is perfect. But time does not wait. Opportunities do not announce themselves twice, and slowly, that waiting turns into a habit, a comfort zone, a quiet prison. I learned this the hard way. My first attempts at investing were not stories of success. They were lessons wrapped in loss. I chased excitement instead of understanding. I followed noise instead of truth. I looked for quick returns instead of long-term value. And each mistake, each small loss, felt bigger than it actually was. Because it wasn't just money I was losing. It was confidence. There were nights, long, quiet nights, where I questioned everything. Whether I was capable, whether I was too late, whether people like me were ever meant to build wealth through investing, and maybe, just maybe, some of you have felt the same. But here is something life teaches you. Slowly, patiently, sometimes painfully. The market is not your enemy. Your emotions are. Fear will tell you to run, even when opportunity is standing right in front of you. Greed will tell you to chase, even when danger is quietly growing beneath the surface. And impatience. Impatience will whisper the most dangerous lie of all, that wealth must come quickly, or it is not worth pursuing. But real wealth, the kind that lasts, the kind that brings peace instead of pressure, is built differently. It is built through patience, through discipline, through the ability to sit still when others are panicking, and to think clearly when others are blinded by excitement. And this is where Tesla enters our story, not as a symbol of guaranteed success, but as a reflection of everything that makes investing both powerful and dangerous. Tesla represents growth, undeniable, extraordinary growth, a company that dared to challenge an entire industry, that turned skepticism into belief, and belief into momentum. For many investors, it became more than just a stock. It became a story they wanted to be part of. And stories are powerful. They pull us in. They make us feel. They make us believe that we are witnessing something historic. And sometimes, we are. But as an investor, you must learn to separate the story from the reality. Because behind every great growth story, there are risks that quietly exist. Often ignored, often underestimated. The price of ambition is uncertainty. Tesla's growth potential is tied to a future that is still unfolding. Electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving. These are not just industries. They are transformations. And being early in transformation can be rewarding, but it can also be unpredictable. Markets can be emotional. They can lift a company to incredible heights, and just as quickly, question everything. So when you look at Tesla, you are not just looking at a company, you are looking at a reflection of human belief, of hope, expectation, and sometimes, overconfidence. And this is where many investors lose their way. They fall in love with the idea and forget to understand the reality. I have seen people invest not because they studied, but because they heard. Not because they believed with clarity, but because they feared missing out. And that fear, that quiet voice saying, "What if this is your chance?" has led many into decisions they did not fully understand. Let me tell you something. Gently, honestly, missing an opportunity is painful, but losing money you cannot afford to lose is far more painful. This is why discipline matters. This is why patience matters. This is why understanding matters more than excitement. Because the goal is not to chase every rising stock. The goal is to build a life where your investments serve you, not control you. Tesla may continue to grow. It may face challenges. It may surprise even the most experienced investors. But your success, your peace, your financial future should never depend on one company alone. True investing is not about finding the perfect stock. It is about becoming the kind of person who can make calm, wise decisions in a world full of noise. And that journey, that transformation, begins not in the market, but within you, within the quiet corners of your own mind, where no headlines exist, where no noise can reach you, where only truth remains, because after a certain point, investing is no longer about numbers. It becomes about character. You begin to realize that the greatest edge you can ever have in the market is not information. It is emotional control. There will be days when Tesla rises sharply, and everyone around you seems excited, confident, almost certain that the future is bright and unstoppable. And in those moments, a subtle pressure builds inside you, a feeling that if you don't act now, you may be left behind forever. And then, there will be other days, days when the same stock falls, when doubt spreads like a quiet storm, when people who once spoke with confidence now speak with fear, and suddenly, the same voices that encouraged you to buy begin to whisper reasons to sell. This is the emotional battlefield of investing, and most people lose here, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack opportunity, but because they lack the patience to stay grounded, and the discipline to stay consistent when emotions begin to rise. There is a certain loneliness in long-term thinking. When others are celebrating quick gains, you may be sitting still. When others are panicking, you may be doing nothing. And that doing nothing often feels like the hardest thing in the world. But understand this deeply. Doing nothing is sometimes the most powerful decision an investor can make, because not every movement requires action, and not every opportunity requires participation. When you study companies like Tesla, you begin to see beyond the surface. You begin to understand that growth is never a straight line. There are periods of rapid expansion, followed by moments of doubt, corrections, recalibrations, And if your mindset is not prepared for this reality, you will constantly feel unstable, uncertain, restless. But if you train yourself, slowly, patiently, to think in years instead of days, everything changes. You stop reacting and start observing. You stop chasing and start understanding. You stop fearing temporary losses and start focusing on long-term value. And this shift, this quiet transformation, is where true wealth begins. Because wealth is not built by reacting to every market movement. It is built by staying consistent. When results are invisible, there will be months, even years, where it feels like nothing is happening. Where your investments are not giving you the excitement, the validation, the quick returns you once imagined. And in those moments, doubt will return. It will ask you, "Is this working?" It will whisper, "Maybe you should try something else." It will tempt you with faster paths, easier gains, shortcuts that promise more, in less time. But remember, every shortcut in finance comes with a hidden cost, and that cost is often your peace of mind. I have seen people chase trend after trend, jumping from one stock to another, one opportunity to the next, always searching, never settling, never building anything meaningful. And years later, they are still searching. Because consistency, not intensity, is what creates results. Even with a company like Tesla, the real question is not, will it grow tomorrow? The real question is, do you have the patience to stay committed through uncertainty? Because growth, real growth, demands time. It demands belief. Not blind belief, but informed belief. A belief built on understanding, on research, on clarity, not on hype. And that kind of belief is quiet. It doesn't shout. It doesn't panic. It doesn't rush. It waits silently, calmly, confidently, and while others are distracted by daily fluctuations, it stays focused on the bigger picture. This is the mindset that separates those who build wealth from those who only chase it. There is also something else, something rarely spoken about. Sacrifice. Every meaningful financial journey requires sacrifice. The sacrifice of comfort, the sacrifice of instant gratification, the sacrifice of spending today for a better tomorrow, while others may choose to spend freely, to follow trends, to live in the moment without thinking of the future. You may find yourself choosing differently. Saving when it's hard. Investing when it feels uncertain. Holding when it feels uncomfortable. These are not easy choices, but they are powerful ones. Because every time you choose discipline over desire, you are quietly building something that may not be visible today, but will become undeniable tomorrow. And this is where peace begins to enter your journey. Not the peace of having everything, but the peace of knowing you are on the right path, that regardless of what happens to Tesla or any other investment, you have built a mindset, a foundation that cannot be shaken easily. Because in the end, it was never just about the stock, it was about who you become while investing in it, while learning to trust yourself, while learning to stay calm in chaos, while learning that true wealth is not just measured in returns, but in clarity, in patience, in inner stability. There comes a moment in every investor's journey when the noise begins to fade. The constant need to check prices slowly disappears. The emotional highs and lows begin to soften, and in their place, something far more powerful emerges. Calm confidence. Not the loud kind. Not the kind that seeks validation, but a quiet, grounded confidence. Built over time. Through experience. Through mistakes. Through lessons that no book could ever fully teach. You begin to understand, deeply, that no single stock, not even Tesla, holds the power to define your future. Yes, Tesla may continue to innovate, to expand, to surprise the world in ways we cannot yet fully imagine. Its growth potential still carries possibility, driven by vision, technology, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. But alongside that potential, there will always be risks. Competition will grow, markets will evolve, expectations will rise, and sometimes, reality will not match the excitement that once surrounded it, and that is not something to fear, that is something to accept. Because acceptance brings clarity, and clarity brings peace. You no longer look at investing as a gamble, or a race, or a desperate attempt to win big. Instead, it becomes a quiet partnership with time itself. You plant, and you wait. You learn, and you grow. You trust, not blindly, but wisely, and slowly. Without noise, without urgency, your financial life begins to take shape. There is something deeply powerful about this stage. You are no longer reacting to the market. You are moving with intention. You are no longer driven by fear. You are guided by understanding. You are no longer chasing wealth. You are building it, step by step, decision by decision. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to feel at peace, regardless of outcomes. Because you know that even if a stock falls, you have not failed. Even if an opportunity passes, you have not lost your path. Your journey is no longer tied to a single moment or a single investment. It is tied to a philosophy, a way of thinking, a way of living, a life where money is not a source of stress, but a tool for freedom, a life where patience is not a weakness, but your greatest strength, a life where discipline quietly shapes your destiny without the need for applause. And as you sit back and reflect, then you realize something beautiful. The greatest return you have earned is not just financial. It is the ability to remain steady in a world that constantly tries to pull you in every direction. It is the ability to think clearly when others are overwhelmed. It is the ability to wait when others are rushing. It is the ability to believe when others are doubting. This is the true reward of a wise investor. And whether Tesla rises or falls, or simply evolves over time, your path remains steady, your vision remains clear, your heart remains at ease. Because in the end, it was never about predicting the future perfectly. It was about preparing yourself to face it with wisdom, with patience, and with quiet strength. Respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, as we gently arrive at the end of this journey together, take a quiet moment and look within. Not at the charts, not at the numbers, not even at Tesla, but at yourself. Because everything we have spoken about, every rise, every risk, every lesson, was never truly about a stock. It was about awakening something deeper inside you, something far more powerful than any market movement. Your awareness. You see, the world will always offer you opportunities. Some will shine brightly like Tesla, full of promise, full of possibility. Others will appear ordinary, quiet, almost invisible, and many will come wrapped in uncertainty, where the outcome is never guaranteed. But your true strength, your real advantage, lies not in choosing perfectly. It lies in thinking clearly. When you learn to pause, to reflect, to step back from the noise, you begin to see things as they are, not as they are presented. You begin to invest not with emotion, but with intention, and that changes everything. Because wealth, real wealth, is not created in moments of excitement. It is created in moments of discipline. It is not built through urgency, but through patience. It is not achieved by chasing, everything, but by understanding what truly matters and staying committed to it. Tesla, with all its growth potential and all its risks, simply becomes a mirror, a reflection of how you think, how you react, how you decide. If you chase it blindly, it may teach you painful lessons. If you study it wisely, it may reward you with understanding. And if you approach it with balance, neither fear nor greed controlling you, it may simply become one step in a much larger journey. A journey toward financial independence, yes, but also a journey toward inner peace. Because what is the purpose of wealth if your mind is restless? What is the value of profit if your heart is always anxious? True success is when your financial life and your inner life are in harmony, when you no longer feel rushed, no longer feel pressured, no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone. You simply move forward, quietly, steadily, with clarity, and one day, without even realizing it, you will look back, and the struggle that once felt endless will feel distant. The fear that once held you back will feel small. The uncertainty that once confused you will feel like a teacher, not an enemy. And in its place, you will find something rare, a calm confidence, a deep understanding that wealth was never just about money. It was about becoming someone who deserves it, who can handle it, who can grow it, and most importantly, who can live peacefully with it. So as you move forward from here, remember this gently. You do not need to rush, you do not need to chase, you do not need to fear. All you need is vision, patience, discipline, and the courage to stay true to your path, even when it feels slow, even when it feels uncertain. Because slow, consistent steps, guided by wisdom, always travel further than fast steps driven by emotion, and somewhere, quietly, beyond the noise of the world, a life of abundance, clarity, and peace is already waiting for you. All you have to do is walk toward it.